Good Friday afternoon. Boy, what did I just do there? Oh, I know what I did wrong. Life goes on. Heck, even I mess up, right? Friday. It's 2 days after Three Kings, which we're going to talk more about that in a minute. It's a day after Orthodox Christmas. So are all the holidays done for now?
I thought that Three Kings is only big in Spain. Is that big in the US?
No? It's not big in So it's not big in the US in general, but in our house it's a big deal because my wife leaves everything up. And so today, when the lights went out on the Christmas tree on Wednesday night, we didn't turn them on yesterday. So it's just
so it's like here.
Yeah. Now
Christmas doesn't work here. Nobody gets any presents. They all wait for Kings.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have we used to do that too. We actually, when our daughter was little, we used to have Christmas Day presents, but then we'd have a couple of presents and that was yours. By the way, if you don't have your drinks out, get your drinks. What is that? I don't know what that is. Cognac?
Gin.
Oh, it's gin. Oh, okay.
It's the end of a horrible week. This is the last thing I'm doing today. I mean, probably not. But I'm going to lie to myself that that's the last thing I'm going to do today.
Yeah. I'm hoping you don't make it through that bottle while we are on this show. That would be way...
No. I cannot drink more than half of the bottle in the show. That's
okay. Rule. Anyway, by the way, if you don't know who we are, my name is Darren. That over there is Victor, and we are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this live show, and we have people join us live. Thanks if you are joining us live today. Oh, by the way, we were talking about Three Kings. I sort of jumped into it. There's my opening. I have one more thing to open today. It's the last. Come on, focus.
Reese. We don't have those.
It's the last of my Christmas candy. The last. So I'm going to enjoy it with you today.
Excellent.
And much like last week, see, I'm just sort of, there you go. There's some ASMR for opening up Reese's stuff. Much like last week, there wasn't a lot of news this week. Most people were still on vacation, right? Because it's still true holiday time. Oh, they were smashed. Here, I'll put it right up there.
Return them.
That's okay. No, I'm not going to return them. They're actually already 75% off. So I got them for normal price now instead of Christmas price.
Hey, for that price, I would smash them. I wouldn't complain.
It was like 65 cents or something. It was cheap. So we have a couple of things that we did find this week that I thought were interesting. But before we get to those, the podcast episode this week was about our 2021 predictions. Where's my mouse? There it is. Which this was episode 89. And we titled it The Year of the Irrelevant. I don't remember why I titled it The Year of the Irrelevant. I don't remember why. It was one of those days, I think, that it just sounded good. We used the term irrelevant a few times in the episode. So I think that's the reason why I used it. I think 2021 is going to be better than 2020, which in reality was better than 2019. It was just different. I think 2021, we're going to see... actually, what was it? Yeah, we started out the episode with Kubernetes is going to die this year. I think where we said something like that. And if you don't agree with us on it, go listen to it and you'll understand why we said that. Okay. So I actually saw this yesterday, or day before yesterday. I don't remember when this posted up. And let me get my sharing going here. Why is that giving me such a hard time today? This was just a blog post about BuildKit CLI. And I believe I saw this on Reddit, just like where I see a lot of stuff. And we've talked a lot about Canico, we've talked about Builda, but not so much BuildKit, because honestly, I just don't really see it in real life. But there was a picture that stood out to me. And the link for this blog post is down in the description, or if you're on the website, you'll be down in the show notes. It wasn't this picture, it was this picture. And I thought this was very interesting. Because this eliminates the need for tools that both you and I work on.
Yeah.
For this specific use case.
I
For
wanna
this
see
use
where you're
case.
going. Yeah.
Right? For this specific use case. There's nothing wrong with the thing that's on the left. It's fine. But if you're scoped to a single Kubernetes cluster, do you need what's on the left? Need.
When you say there is nothing wrong, let me add the end of that sentence. There is nothing wrong with the picture on the left if you're working in a 5-people company. And as long as, and if it's bigger than, okay, let's not be cringy. 20-people company. If it's bigger than that, there is something terribly wrong with you doing anything like building, pushing, deploying. It's terribly wrong. So I disagree with the statement there's nothing wrong.
Okay. Well, okay, so wrong may be the incorrect word. There's nothing abnormal about what's on the left.
Yes, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, the picture that's on the left is what is happening on the right.
Yeah.
It's just like what Copilot and Waypoint do. It's sort of bundling those steps together and abstracting them away from you. Right?
Exactly.
That's effectively what BuildKit CLI is doing. And I'd actually honestly forgotten about it. But this isn't I want to say it's not a bad thing, the picture on the right now. The thing I do disagree with on the right is that image push optional out to the container registry. I don't think it's optional. I understand why they're saying it's optional, but operationally, it's not optional.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a case. No, yeah. I was trying to figure out what would be the case where you wouldn't push, and I honestly cannot come to the situation where you wouldn't push, really. No.
Because that means there is nowhere else, in case you had to rebuild, that means you have to rebuild everything.
I mean, if instead of KTS, instead of Kubernetes, that box would say VM, right?
Right.
Or Docker or something like that, that is not a cluster. Then I can say, hey, pushing is optional because I might just as well build it and then run it because it's already locally available and do something with it, whatever. Then that could be maybe I will not go to production, but I'm going to run that container for the sake of testing, right? I can imagine situations in which that would be optional if it wouldn't be Kubernetes. But it's Kubernetes. I built it. Whatever I'm going to do with that container image, I cannot assume that it stays where it was built.
Right. Scaling. Because BuildKit isn't doing something magical under the hood to replicate images around, is it?
No, not that I know. Not that I know. And even if it would be doing, I mean, really, is it going to replicate images across all the nodes of my cluster just in case it runs on node 17? No.
Right. Or I have an auto scale event and I add in 5 new nodes. Do they automatically get preloaded with those images? I wouldn't think so. So it's...
No, actually, I figured out. I know I finally got to the why it would be optional. Actually, a very good reason why it should be optional.
Okay.
Maybe it should be optional always because maybe I'm going to build the image and maybe I'm going to execute some steps between building images and pushing some actions, and then I push, right? Let's say that I build do security scanning, which is for whatever reason not triggered when pushing it to registry. Let's say that I don't have security scanning just being triggered on pushing to registry, so I might have additional steps. I think it's a similar situation like with Copilot, right? I wanted them to separate building from pushing or running, precisely because of those steps in the middle.
Right. So if you have a simple workflow and you haven't looked at BuildKit, we've talked about Canico and Builda and all the other things. I'm going to have to say, take a look at BuildKit, right? And see if it might be a part of your toolchain. I'll put it that way. I don't believe it's a whole solution, but I think it could be part of a toolchain. I don't know. It seems reasonable. Again, going back to, you shouldn't be using Docker to build images in a Kubernetes cluster, right? I think we can all agree on that. At least I hope we can agree on that. Anyway, it was a good post.
Yeah.
I didn't go beyond this picture here.
Is this a subliminal message that I should create a video on that?
It wasn't a subliminal message until you just told me, but maybe. I mean, because we've done Canico, you've done Canico. Have you done Builda yet?
No, not yet. So it's on the list. Builda and BuildKit is on the list as well.
BuildKit, yeah.
I just don't know how to. I don't know how to choose what to do next, what we should do next. So it's more or less random.
Yeah, I think it's worth looking at. I don't know if I would dethrone other things at this point to do that, but whatever.
Hey, you cannot argue against the guy that has a crown on top of his head, kind of like that needs to be prioritized.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of prioritized, I didn't get a lower third for this. I forgot about it. I saw this morning and I had to laugh. There's a project called KubeInvaders. Do you want to take a guess? Have you seen this before?
No. I'm starting to guess, and then my brain is going wild.
It's Space Invaders for your Kubernetes cluster, but instead of shooting the aliens, you're actually shooting pods.
That's so cool.
So they actually released a video for this yesterday. Today's the 8th of January, 2021. I don't know how this is going to work. Let's try it and see what happens. Okay, let's see if this actually does what it does. No,
I want to see this.
It doesn't like that. Okay, so let's do this. All right, hang on. So we're going to have to go back to, oh, it threw me out. So let me reshare this. Actually, why is that ringing? Oh, my phone. Okay. No, I don't need to talk to you. You, I need to talk to, not that. Okay, so let's see. I can't really size it the way I want to. So here, let's just run it and see what happens. I don't know if I'm going to lose. Let me try this one more time. There we go. So he's going off and shooting it until eventually all the things happen and whatever it is. This is only 40 seconds, so it's probably almost over. I almost spun up a cluster just to play with this live today, but I didn't, since the demo was already here.
I love this, man. This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so it's, hey, we don't need to see that. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. In case you get bored.
In a company who's going to destroy more invaders before crashing the cluster.
I would like to take this against the big three clusters. Like, just set them up correctly, right? Put auto scaling on it, do all the right things, and then put this against it. I think that would be a riot.
You mean
really
a
do.
kind of cluster, not with apps, your apps, but just cluster with kube system, and see what breaks. That's a brilliant idea. We need to make this video. Darin, you just committed to hours of work.
Okay, there we go. That. Okay. Done.
I love it. It's so brilliant. We should, you know what would be cool to kind of give it to a company without actually saying that it's anything to do with their clusters. Just kind of, hey, corporate just made a new rule. You can have half an hour of game time a day. Play.
Yeah. So it's and it's actually, what's interesting is this has actually been 2 years, but it's been really active recently, so it's still very active. There's your key mapping, which is funny, and then you can install it with Helm. It's getting stranger by the moment. And then the client, you just run it inside a Docker image. You give it a token, and then it just starts destroying. I like it. Oh wait, I thought I was sharing. Dang it! Sorry. No wonder I look weird.
Now you are.
Now I am. Okay. So. Yep, there it is. There's all the stuff you have to do. The link for this is down in the show notes. If you want to test this against your company's production clusters this weekend, I didn't recommend it. Let's put it that way. I'm just saying it might be interesting.
Do it, and then take out your phone and record the faces of people in your company and send it to us.
Yeah, that would be good. Or post it on YouTube and then send us the link on YouTube.
Exactly.
Because then you can let these guys know too. I think it's a riot. Because I know you're a gamer. You're not hardcore gamer, but you're a gamer, right?
I do play games every once in a while. Yes.
So this is the level of game I can play. Like Space Invaders, I can play that. I have the skill set to be able to play that. But that's it. All right, so let's talk about your video for this week. Sealed secrets. It feels so wrong to put secrets in a Git repository. It feels so wrong. Yeah,
and actually, the story behind this is kind of internal to the company where I work in. We were discussing, we are in a process of moving things, products, this is not a commercial, right? Into being very much aligned with GitOps principles and stuff like that. And then at one moment, I started yelling at people, okay, so what are we going to do with secrets? And then they started, customers, they have Vault, they have this and that, but we need to have a default one. We're going to do this and that. And I like going to extremes. I like okay, so if you're adopting GitOps, everything goes to Git, go figure out how to put absolutely everything in Git. And the result of go figure out, actually while they're going and figuring it out, I made that video more like educational material, let's say. And yes, we can put secrets in Git. Now, I'm not going into depths of exploring the pros and cons against, let's say, HashiCorp Vault. And I'm not trying to convince everybody to use kubectl instead of HashiCorp Vault. But I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea the GitOps, I think, is a very good thing. Storing things in Git. And I'm not now talking about Argo CD, Flux, and GitOps branded tools. But in general, you store things in Git. That's where things are. And philosophically speaking, or logically speaking, if I put Kubernetes deployment and Kubernetes service and Kubernetes this and Kubernetes that, then I should have the option to put Kubernetes secret in Git as well.
It just still feels wrong, though. It feels
Actually,
wrong.
it's pretty
I know it's
brilliant
fine.
because some other options are trying to seal your secrets by doing things from a server or from laptop so that you can unseal them from here and there. But this is purely Kubernetes. Kind of only the person who has access with right permissions to your Kubernetes cluster can unseal that secret, right? So basically, it is as safe or as unsafe as your Kubernetes cluster is safe or unsafe. And I would argue, actually, if I get to your Kubernetes cluster with sufficient permissions, it doesn't really matter whether you use kubectl or HashiVolt or what did you use. That's game over. Kind of, if I'm there with admin permissions, it's game over, no matter what I used.
That's true. I'm going to say it one more time. It just doesn't feel right. But I know it can be done, right? It's
Yeah, but
well, and
that
so
doesn't
Thomas
feel
brought it.
right. But think about it, kind of the silliness. To me, it's not only about what is more secure on a surface, but it's also what allows people to use the technology without introducing humanly made insecurities, right? If it's overly complicated, if it requires too many steps, if it requires too many approvals, people end up with post-its on their monitors. People end up finding workarounds around security and making it actually something that is extremely secure, making it extremely insecure. This makes things easy. And I think that making things, if it's not easy, then it's going to be ultimately insecure or unproductive, one of the two things. It's either unproductive or not secure because people find a way either not to do their work because of that or to figure out a workaround that will make some allow them to make some stupid decisions that will make it ultimately insecure, like post-its. Have you ever seen that have you been ever in a company that has passwords and post-its on monitor?
Monitor, keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like that inherent. I don't think that people recommend it anymore, but at least in the past, people recommended, hey, your password cannot contain any word from a dictionary. It needs to have these special characters. It needs to be rotated every week. In other words, you're never, ever, ever going to remember your password, right? Yeah. That was the policy in a significant percentage of companies I've worked with in the past. And if you cannot remember the password, what do? You need to write it down, right? If you cannot remember it, you absolutely have to write it down.
Yeah.
That's a post-it on a monitor.
Yeah. The Thomas brought up to us the best thing with sealed secrets. It doesn't conflict with anything else.
Exactly. The only additional thing you need to do outside of what you're already doing is to pipe a secret into kubectl CLI that will seal it. That's it. Yeah. That's the only action.
Now, one thing you just said a moment ago is talking about rotation, when you were talking about, hey, you have to change your password every 30 days. How would you rotate a sealed secret? Same type way?
You generate a new secret.
Just generate a new secret.
So the keys in the cluster are rotating. I don't remember anymore whether it's once a week or once a month. They're rotating, right? Yeah. So if you regenerate a sealed secret from a secret a while later, it will create a different entry.
Right.
Right. And then you push it again to Git, and then and that's about it.
Okay. Should be pretty straightforward.
But you need that manual action. I mean, it could be automated, right? But actually, it cannot be automated. That's a bit problematic. Because if you would want to automate recreation of the secrets, then because you need a real secret in order to seal it.
Right.
If you want to automate it, you would need to have a script that actually has a real secret and runs periodically, right? That would be a bit bad. No. So it needs to be a manual action. But that's normal.
That's not a bad thing. It's not. I mean, it's bad, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Is that okay? All right. Let's see what else. It's awesome to be able to run all kinds of Helm customize and what's not, and then actually push that deploy YAML to Git, right? Check it afterwards, redeploy without any new templates. Yeah.
So the goal behind that exercise before I published the video was, hey, I want to have absolutely everything in Git. I want to be able to give you, Darin, for example, a Git repository that you just execute. kubectl, Helm, Flux, Argo CD, it doesn't matter how you deploy it. I give you a Git repository and you can deploy it to your cluster with a single command. Let's say single command, if not automate. Otherwise, if you go normally to sites that give you instructions how to install this and that, you would see kubectl, these days, usually two commands, kubectl this and that apply because CRDs need to be separated. They're a bit problematic. And then Helm upgrade, like kind of two commands or one.
Right.
And then comes the secrets part. Kind of generate this secret, push it to the cluster, or do this, or do that. Or maybe like when you install, for example, I will take of an example, Argo CD, the password is auto-generated, and then you have 7 commands, instructions how to get it so that you can log in into the UI and all that stuff, right? Kind of secrets are always 2/3 of instructions to do something. It shouldn't be.
True. Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's see here. One more thing for Thomas. Two scenarios: to rate the secret, should also rotate the actual password or whatever it is connecting it. Right. Everything should be rotated, which takes you back to that manual. You're pretty much host. It's got to be manual.
Yeah, it would be pointless if my password is, let's say, 1234, right? The unsealed. It would be silly for me to seal it periodically to generate new sealed secret.
Right.
That would not really. If somebody figured out that my real password is 1234, that's what needs to change, and then starts the process of resealing and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
There was. It's. I mean, horrible that I just remembered. I should have saved the link. I don't have it. But there was an outage in one of the companies that GitLab was breached, their server, and actually they had default password not changed. I think it was password 1 or something like that. A huge breach. And then people started kind of like, oh, GitLab this and that. No, kind of.
Look, you can't blame. Okay, let's pretend we didn't say that company name for a moment.
Yeah.
A company has to ship something with a default, typically, right? Is there ever a time where you could get by without shipping a default password?
Yeah. So you need to ship a default password, but what I'm seeing more and more kind of becoming a norm, and this is like where that company, which we're not gonna name again, comes into play, is that yes, you need to ship with the default password, but maybe the default password should be auto-generated, and then you get the means to get it and change it later, right?
Yeah.
So I remember MySQL, I don't remember anymore what password, but root password was forever, maybe probably not today, but forever the same for everybody.
Yeah.
See, because kind of, and I could say that, hey, having a default root password for MS SQL, and I'm using it as example, this is not attack on Microsoft, we cannot blame them because it is the responsibility of whomever is installing to change it. But I think it is, in a way, responsibility of vendors to enforce, in a way, good practice, right? And
it's almost like it's not bad to have that default password, but as soon as the system sees that it is now installed, a clock should start that.
Exactly.
That should either force the change, stop the process until it's changed. But again, you'd be writing a lot of code for one specific thing. But that one specific thing can cause lots of problems, as we were just talking about.
Exactly, and ultimately damage not the company using it only, but you as a software vendor, right?
Right.
We need to somehow. I mean, we are both in the same space, software vendors. We need to assume that people majority of people is always going to act with least resistance. What is the easiest way to do that, right? If the easiest way is to run this single command, I'm going to run this single command.
Yeah. But that's on us for not doing as good of a job of teaching what should be done. If we can't enforce it via code, we need to be yelling it from the rooftops of, hey.
Yeah, it needs to be, it's responsibility, I think our responsibility of both of us, and we say both of us, the industry as a whole actually, is not to ship software, is to shift, to kind of propagate good practices how to use that software. If you don't do that, if you just give software and kind of, hey, it's your fault, it's not.
That's not good. Yeah. I was just looking for some other news. Nothing else has popped in. Wow.
Nothing is going on after Christmas, after New Year's Eve, everybody spent all the budget on marketing before Christmas, and now they're all quiet. That's how the industry works.
Is it? I'm still learning.
I can only say from personal example, last 3 Christmases that I witnessed, and especially the last one, half of the marketing budget goes into pre-Christmas type of stuff of announcements.
What else is?
And it happens that KubeCon happens to be just before Christmas. Okay, come on.
KubeCon, reInvent. There's a lot of big ones right before then. The episode that we have coming up this coming week is, how should I put it? Interesting.
Yeah.
This is the one with Andy. I don't want to say a whole lot more about it right now, but if you're interested in the CD space, it'll be an interesting listen for you. It'll be interesting. I liked it. I just finished editing it last night. I'm running way behind. I don't like being like 1 week out. I like being 2 weeks out. That gives me a little bit of breathing room sanely, but.
Oh man, if that's your definition behind, I have no idea how to characterize myself then.
Basically, if it's not done by the time you need to hit publish, that's you, right?
Yeah,
almost.
More or less, yes.
I can't do that.
Actually, I don't know, on the DevOps Toolkit's channel, nobody probably noticed, but videos were being published on Tuesdays, and now they're on Wednesdays. And the reason for Wednesday is because when the time came for me to click the publish button, it wasn't ready, so I needed a couple of hours more, and then it was too late, and I said, okay, what the heck, it's going to be tomorrow, and it ended up being Wednesday forever.
Which is the same day that we release the podcast too. But hey, that's fine.
I can change it back to Tuesday.
It doesn't matter. We don't release it at the exact same time. Plus, yours is typically shorter than the podcast. So, and your face is much more pretty than our voices.
Okay. Now I think that you have hidden agenda.
What's it? What is in this can? What is in this can? I'm gonna go back to what Thomas posted here. Script the password change on the target service with a random password, and then also seal this password, push to the repository, trigger the deploy. No one selected the repository, you can rerun it. Okay, so that very last part of the sentence there, it can be run every 3 months or so. I want to change that. Bless you. Bless you. One more? Oh, he muted himself. Are you back?
Hey, I'm advanced. Look at that. I'm triggering mute, unmute, all that stuff.
And you still have your sinuses. You're still in one piece. Okay.
Still in one piece, yes.
All right. But did you spill? No spilling, right? All the drops are still contained. Okay.
Yeah, spilling, but in a different direction.
Okay. Back to what I was saying here. Every 3 months or so. I want to change that to every 3 hours or so.
Yeah, it can be definitely more frequently.
Which is great. right? If you think about, I don't have one in front of me, actually. I can't pull it up right now. Think about Google Authenticator, right? The passwords are changing every, whatever the time sequence on it is. Or if you have the old RSA things, right? It's just changing up all the time.
So there is also that thing with passwords. I think that it's almost that we are thinking about them from inertia, that somehow humans, we always had to have that ability to access things directly. And I think that, or indirectly through bridges or tunnels or whatever. But I think that need is becoming less and less important, because really kind of, I mean, let's say the simplest one. I'm not accessing my VMs and clusters and what's not directly. We're, storing Git. You have this tool or that tool, doesn't matter, which is kind of synchronizing. So I don't need really to access the cluster, or at least I need it much, much less frequently. And even if I do need to access the cluster, but that need is less frequent, retrieving the password through some instructions is less of a problem, right? If I'm going to access the cluster, let's say once a month because something unexpected happens instead of every single day, then I don't need to keep it in my head and I don't need to have it kind of ready always. Yep. I can spend 5 minutes trying to retrieve it one way or another through whichever means necessary.
Yeah.
So
and then you close it back up.
Yeah. The less we need, and that brings me to the thing that for many of, not all, but for many of the places where we traditionally need the password and to encrypt password, maybe we don't need passwords at all. Instead of, so let's say a database, right? Maybe database doesn't need the password like 1234 that is encrypted and stored securely. Maybe just needs to say, hey, this specific entity, this specific service is the only service who can access me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Kind of establish secure connection between service A and that database.
Yep.
And then, hey, there is not necessarily, there is no password. Simply, you're the only one who can access me. Nobody else can. That's the application that speaks to me. Why would you access me?
Well, that's the way that, by default, I believe Google's Cloud SQL works. Because you can access it by socket. So therefore, there is no extra. Is that true or not true? I think I'm confusing myself now.
I'm not sure for that one.
Yeah, I may be wrong. So rewind. Don't listen to that. But yeah, well, or it goes back to the old thing of it's just an IP address approval, right? It's traffic from this IP address is allowed. Then you have to be careful that you protect whatever that source IP is from actual intrusion. Because if you get there, then that means you have access further back. So there should always be, if you can do some sort of multi-factor, whatever that is, and I say multi-factor just as a broad statement right then, not that you would be punching in numbers, but there needs to be more than just one proof. That's the thing too, is people use username, passwords, or an ID and a key as, okay, I'm authenticated. Well, yeah, you're authenticated with one thing. You need to be authenticated with a little bit more than that, I think. So, what else? What else to see?
There's Thomas questions.
Oh. What does frequent password change actually add in terms of security? 0.
No, it does add something, and that something is that if your password is compromised.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is a valid reason to change frequently, but theoretically, if your system is compromised, somebody finds out your password, authentication, whatever, then that somebody has access to your system from the moment they figured it out until you change it. Assuming that they don't start changing themselves, and then we are in deep trouble, right? But let's say that.
Right. That's the other reason why that's why you want automated rotation. Is there is no human involved in actually forcing that rotation.
Yeah. But so, and in that sense, kind of, I would say that I honestly don't see a big difference between rotating passwords once a month and once every 3 months. To me, that's the same, or once a year. Kind of, let's say that if the reason for rotating password is, hey, somebody find out the password and let's reduce the time that somebody has access to our system, then any rotation longer than, let's say, a day is equally bad. Kind of, I must assume that within a full day, somebody with access to your cluster can do everything they need to do. Does that make kind of sense, right? So maybe, yeah. So if it's a month or 3 months, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. So I want automated rotation to make sure that anyone haven't to brute force my credentials.
Yeah. Yes, but I mean, brute force is definitely a thing. It's definitely happening. But if I would be a hacker or trying to breach into system, I would probably choose different ways to get into it than brute force. And I'm saying this as a person this is not my focus. I'm not a security expert, so what I'm saying might be completely silly, but I think it's so much easier through social means to get information than brute force. I don't know, hook with a guy or a girl that works in a company, figure out after a long night or something, kind of, or steal it from, I don't know, somebody's in a coffee shop connected to the network, connect to the same network, get their information. Now, my first example was inappropriate, but there are much easier way, I think, or more efficient ways through social engineering somehow to get information than brute force.
I need to bring on one of my acquaintances to talk about security.
Yeah, we should do that.
We
should definitely do that.
I've got a really good guy for that.
Hey, I know a good guy that you love. Okay, then 2 good guys.
Okay. Well, it doesn't hurt.
I cannot pronounce his name. The one that we want to invite again. No. The DevOps guy.
Patrick.
Yeah, what's his last name? Dubois. Something
Dubois.
like that.
Yeah, Dubois.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot pronounce it.
He is coming back on. He'll come back on for episode 100.
He's working in a security company.
Yeah, but I've got a guy that works, how should I say, on the black hat side of things.
Oh, I like that. Like, yeah.
Let's just say I can't say any more. I already know too much. It's not even that I've said too much. I already know too much, so I can't say anything beyond that. But I should bring him on.
Is that one of those guys that, like in movies, get to the keyboard, type random stuff, and then they're into Pentagon? I seen it in a movie. No, not that type of guy. No, okay.
Oh, let's say he's not that type of guy, but he's the type of guy that makes somebody do that.
Ah, okay. Now this is mystery. Yeah, you need to bring him now. I'm not going to record anything anymore with you until you bring him in. Carl, this is my ultimatum now.
I don't know that I can record him. That's the whole thing.
Okay, I don't know. Hey, that's a learning experience. We need to figure out how to scramble the voice and put the, like silhouette instead of the face. Is that the type of, this is more interesting by the moment.
He's actually okay. So I'm trying to make it big. I'll just get him on and we'll talk about it. That one may end up being a multi-episode type sequence.
You said multi-serial. I already imagined what's the word coming after that. Okay, not that one. Okay.
I was going to say multi-series, but I meant multi-episode.
Okay.
That's what I meant. Thomas called out a good one here. In the 90s, a 6-character password should take 100,000 years. 6 characters today with a couple of GPUs, a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
He's right.
Keys.
And he made this last point here is key part. If it's completely random and it's not in anybody's memory, which goes back to my acquaintance,
Yes.
you can't lose it. That's big, 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 big. All it takes is a little bit of sodium pentothal, and that password would be given up. It's truth serum, by the way.
That's the thing. In most cases, we don't need. I mean, when we're talking about corporate environment, right, systems, stuff like that, you don't use passwords. You don't go to log into production system and then asks you for a password. Like it's authentication keys and what's not. So it's more about, I guess, nobody knows anymore passwords, but it's more about whether I can access your laptop, right? Whether I can get your, let's say, GitHub authentication stored somewhere.
Maybe. I still see passwords being entered.
I don't know. That kind of.
Remember who I work with versus who you work with. I still work with a lot of VM-based people.
True.
Not Kubernetes.
Yeah, kind of like you SSH into a tunnel server. And
you get to a jump server, and then once you're on that server, oh, by the way, that's a shared server for everybody.
Exactly. And
now, I have,
to go and get into that jump server, you type a password, and from there on, you have secure connection with the rest of the cluster, right?
Right.
Good
now,
time.
I have seen, I saw one client, I do not remember who it was, but their jump servers, they still have the jump server process. But what was interesting was they actually didn't connect to a jump server. They connected to a service that generated a jump server that got you connected, and then you could do your work. But as soon as you logged out of that jump server was destroyed. That was interesting. I mean, it's still there during that time when that jump server is up. That's a chance for incursion. But
to me, the key that is often most of the time overlooked in companies that makes things insecure is not making things simple for people. I think that's the most problematic part from my perspective. If you don't make it simple, if I need to do 57, open 7 Jira tickets and what's not, I'm going to make my life easier through workarounds.
Right.
That's like a company somewhere in the Middle East, which I cannot name. They had those things kind of like, hey, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. For this you need 7 requests and what's not. And then, by the way, we have this computer below this desk that is actually, if you log into that, we have access to everything. Kind of simply because none of us wants to do all those hoops and extra steps to get to something 3 weeks later. And that server, I cannot blame them for having that desktop below the desk computer that basically has direct access to everything. I cannot blame them from that because I would do exactly the same. Because when I cannot do my work, I'm going to do whichever shortcut I can imagine.
The experience that Thomas has is the same that I used to have.
Yeah.
Ask for a database. Here's an ID and password. Have a nice day. The ID and password probably showed up in a ticket.
Okay. At least in his case, it wasn't kind of like. It could be worse. It could be, wait a second, and then somebody goes to somebody else's monitor, gets that post-it and puts it on here.
That's what I'm saying. They take it, they write it down. It's like, here you go.
Exactly. But that is caused by not making things simple. It needs to be secure and simple. If it's not simple, people are going to write it on a post.
Yep. So should we define a new term? Are you ready to do some trademarking today? We'll call the lawyer.
Fire on.
You ready? PostItOps.
I'm finishing my gin tonic. You can say whatever you want.
PostItOps.
Yeah.
It leads you into Kanban, right? It's a sticky, so it's Kanban. So I'm doing Agile because I have a sticky.
Can we make it like high tech that we have a software that scans your post-it through webcam?
Probably. Well, no, but it can't be your webcam. It has to be somebody else's webcam that is in the cube behind you, and their webcam is on. They're looking at your screen with all your post-its.
But imagine that kind of like, if I could write on a post-it kind of like deploy application X to production and put it like webcam. Where is my webcam? Here. Kind of.
Yeah.
Say, okay, finished.
Oh, we need to save that for
cool.
Patrick.
That would be awesomely cool.
Okay, so if you haven't been following, it sounds like you haven't been following Patrick on Twitter recently. He's been doing a lot of stuff with optical scanning, mainly for facial type stuff. But that would work the same way. It's like, yeah, put a sticky up there, and it's like deploy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to prod, and then all of a sudden, what would happen is you would see. What would be your feedback on that? You'd have to have like a light that's on your desk or something that gives you visual feedback.
Nah, it's not good enough. I want kind of like, if it's kind of face recognition, I want to do things with my eyes, kind of like production, staging.
So basically,
staging, production, kind of like,
and then nothing against.
Shut it down, kind of like no more. Yeah. It couldn't sell in India, so that's a problem. So I still need to figure out the exact movements. That would be a very.
I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to make sure that we are going to be in a lot of trouble for you just saying that.
Okay, I'm gonna figure out something offensive for non-India. I don't know. It's in good spirits. I can gin. Hey, I can gin tonic. You can blame alcohol.
Okay. That would be interesting. It'd be the new version of the Nerf guns being released after a job completing. Who broke the build? Turn around and then it releases the.
But there was that thing that while we both, I mean, like 10 years ago, I was in a company that had no, that was before actually before working in the same company as you, that they had small kind of like cannons that would fire into people's face whenever they break the build.
Yeah, we did that with cruise control back in the early 2000s. It was a lot of fun. That's before all the good. I mean, back then it was a lot harder than it is now. I mean, back then you really had to understand, servos and all the other things, even though you had the cannon. But now, IoT makes it all a lot easier. How could we build that? What would be the interesting? Maybe that's what we've got to come up with this year. We haven't come up with our goals yet for this year. Maybe this ends up on the stretch goal for this year. Is come up with PostItOps.
PostItOps, yeah. We should do that. Yeah. I like it. I would commit to it if I would know. If I wouldn't know better, that I would have time for it. But
okay. So anyway, we should be back next week. Thanks for everybody hanging out with us today. We'll probably wrap up here a little bit early. I got a few more things I have to get done, and Victor, I believe, needs to stop at this point. We're already in trouble. I don't need more trouble. No more trouble. Okay. Let's see. Was there anything else I need to remind people of? Yep. Podcast will be coming out next Wednesday at 6 a.m. Eastern. And all the links that we talked about today, although there were a few, they'll just be down in the show notes below. I've got to fix I mentioned this last week. I don't know if anybody watched it or not. Let me pull this up here real quick before we go. Oh boy, this is fun. You're going to like this. You ready? So in the upper right-hand corner, that's supposed to say buy us a pizza. The CSS does not play nice. There we go. We've got Patreon links. I need to go out and clean out all the Patreon links, but we have this concept called buy us a pizza. It's buy us a coffee, whatever it is. If you enjoy the content and you want to throw us a little tip, that's great. Pizza fuels us both. Well, pizza and Red Bull really fuels Victor. I don't know what I like right now. After losing 40 pounds, it's like I'm a lot more careful about what I eat. It's like, I don't want to go back up again. But that's where the link is, Bias Pizza.
I'm also very careful. I kind of, it needs to have pepperoni. It cannot be any pizza.
Is it just pepperoni?
I mean, other stuff as well, but it needs to have pepperoni.
It has to have pepperoni. So in
So
other words,
you cannot say that I'm not careful what I eat. I cannot eat any meat on a pizza. It needs to be pepperoni.
okay.
It's a
But
conscious choice.
Yep. Thomas, Vladislav, thank you for everything that you guys have done today. Thomas, thanks for all the interactions today. That was great. You probably would not like margarita pizza. It doesn't have alcohol on it. No, so that's
No, I don't. My household eats pepperoni, so I always order pepperoni plus. Sorry, my household eats margarita only, exclusively.
only. Okay.
Yes. So we always order margarita plus pepperoni.
Pepperoni. Okay. I'm thankful my wife likes 3 meat, 5 meat, 10 meat, whatever it is. So it's and then we put spinach on it. I like spinach. But that's not what I'm talking about today.
I like spinach as well, but in cartoons, not in my food.
Ooh, canned spinach? Nasty. No. Fresh or sauteed? I'm okay with that. All right. Boy, this is devolved. And your glass is empty now, right? You didn't refill it.
No, he's still
Oh,
there.
you're still working. Okay. All right.
No, I promise I'm going to be moderate, so I didn't finish it yet.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We will talk to you again next week if I can find the video, which I did right now.